Ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise for the playing of
the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast
with your host, the 2023 IBWAA Podcast Host of the Year, Jana, and her big brother, Jack. Here we go, another brand new episode of the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast. This week, I apologize, it's just me. Jana is celebrating birthdays of her youngest this week, and she'll also be out next week celebrating Planet Head's birthday. So this week it's one of the moons. Next week it's actually the planet. So happy birthday to both of them. And we'll see Jana in a couple of weeks to talk. And maybe she'll be happier. Maybe she won't. Depends on how the Dodgers are playing. So we'll see how that's going. Plus, she'll be kind of settled in now. School started and things are getting kind of into their normal routine. Remember, you can find us on our Twitter at Sibling Rivalry BB without the A. Instagram and Facebook is Sibling Rivalry BB with the A. And our website is siblingrivalrybb.com. And check out the Fanatics link while you're on there. Some great gear up there. I wasn't a big fan of the All-Star caps. Well, definitely not of the American League hats. But I did like the workout caps. The more I saw them, and I thought, I'll go get an Angels All-Star cap, and they were like half price, and I thought, okay, perfect, I'm going to grab one, and they didn't have my size. So you got to get in there and get those things early, I guess, or you're going to miss out. Anyway, check that out for all your favorite team gear, plus Olympic gear, and so much more. They're on the Fanatics link through the siblingrivalrybb.com link right there at the top of the page. All right, well, let's not fool around. I got a bunch to talk about. Angels, Dodgers, around baseball. Talk a little bit about the matchups. Well, who's going to the Little League World Series anyway, and a few more things. No Wheel of IL this week. The wheels are down for maintenance. So maybe next week, and if not, then we'll have it by the time Jana gets back. So what are we waiting for? Let's get this show on the road. Another standard week for the Angels. Win some, lose some. There's an interesting thing happening here, though, and we'll talk a little more about that as we get into the segment here. But the Angels, they beat the Mets at home, and then they hit the road, head to New York so they could take on the Yankees there in the Bronx, a place that they've not had a lot of success at. And then after that they head to D.C. So let's start though with the Yankees. They win the series 2-1. Rain out on the first night. If you've watched the weather, East Coast had, I think, what was it, storm? I don't know if it was a hurricane or a tropical storm. Debbie was dumping a lot of rain, especially from like coastal Georgia up through North Carolina, and then all that came up and rained a lot across from D.C. on up into New York, and caused some problems and rained out the Monday game. In fact, the last game of that series, it rained almost the whole time. They were able to get it in. But there for a little while you thought, oh, man, are they going to call this? And you just kept waiting to see, did they get to the spot where it can be considered a complete game? But they were able to get it through. Angels do take that series 2-1. Doubleheader. So the Monday game was rained out, doubleheader. The next day, they split that doubleheader. And lose the first one 5-2, but win the second one 8-2. Zach Neto plays big in both of these games with a home run in the first game and a couple of RBIs, and then boom, 6 RBIs, a home run, a double, going 3 for 5. In fact, it was a good game for all the Angels. Michael Stefanik went 3 for 4. Only Logan O'Hoppe was hitless, and he's been kind of in a slump. But if you got Zach Neto doing that and Michael Stefanik, and you're able to put 8 runs on the board. Carson Fulmer had an okay outing, 4 innings, gave up 7 hits and 2 runs. Only struck out 1, only walked 1. But the offense made it easy for him to get through. And then finally, in the final game, once again, Zach Neto, 3 for 4 with an RBI. Nolan Shanuel, 3 for 5, 2 RBIs and a home run. Kevin Pillar, a couple of RBIs in that game. And the Angels take, I think, this is the first series in quite a few years. I don't remember exactly how many years. Only Anthony Rendon and Logan O'Hoppe were hitless in that game. Tyler Anderson went for 6, gave up one run on 3 hits. That 1 run was a home run. Bauman was the one who gave up the 4 runs, or 3 runs, I mean, or 2 runs on 4 hits. Let me get that right. And Anderson struck out 7 there. Verdugo, Judge, Austin Wells all had 2 hits each in that first game. But overall, not a great series for any of them. And Luis Gill pitched well versus the in game 2. I think it was game 1, actually. And Nestor Cortez pitched game 3. Obviously, didn't pitch that well. The Angels then, riding on their success, beating the Yankees, feeling good about themselves. You figure they're going to run into a Washington Nationals team that's not that good and just tear them up. Well, wasn't quite that easy. The first time Anthony Rendon's been back to Washington to play anyway, since he left the team back at the end of 2019, joined the Angels in 2020, and I think he's here forever, and we're going to be paying for him whether he plays or not, and whether he plays well. Well, here, even though he didn't really contribute any runs or RBIs for the most part, he did get on base, so he gave him an opportunity. He pretty much, enjoyed the limelight of being back. Got a big round of applause or a big ovation from the Washington fans, and a video tribute. Like I said, first time he's been back since he left in 2019 after they won the World Series. A couple of Jennings games, so that the Angels end up losing in walk-off fashion in games 1 and 2, and with the Nats taking a 3-2 and a 5-4 victory in both in those 2 games. Jose Soriano, not a bad game. You can blame the bullpen and Alex Call from the Nationals for causing problems there, and then Griffin Canning went 7 innings. He gave up 4 runs in that second game on 8 hits, but and didn't strike out anybody, but he didn't walk anybody. Gave up a home run, but it was really Ronzi Contreras who let that one get away. Strickland and Hans Kraus both put up zeros when they came in, but Contreras just couldn't keep them from scoring, and the Nats take that one. In our spotlight game, which is game 3 of this series, it was Jack Kawanowitz making his 3rd start. In his first 2 starts, he had gone 4 innings and 3 innings. He had an ERA of like 14, and he was able to cut that in half by going 7 2/3, giving up just 2 runs on 6 hits, striking out 2, and that really drove them. Now, Ben Joyce, who had overall been looking pretty good, had a couple of rough outings during this road trip, gave up 2 runs, but luckily the the Angels had scored 6 thanks to Mickey Moniak, Kevin Pillar. Kevin Pillar drives in 3 of the 6. And the Angels walk away with a win. So they continue to do the same things that they've been doing. They win a couple, they lose a couple. They're still figuring out how to win. I'm seeing things. Zach Neto had a great week. And I'm seeing something that I had mentioned before in that he has, he'll make a good play, but his throw pulls Shanuel off the base. Shanuel's a tall guy. He's got a good stretch, but anybody. So if Shanuel's not in and they're playing like Willie Calhoun at first base or Brandon Drury played first base, these guys aren't quite as tall and don't have the stretch that Nolan Shanuel has. These balls would be past those guys in most cases. If even if they're trying to stay on the bag, they're going to have to be completely off the bag in order to get themselves in position to catch some of those throws. He's been better over these last few games, so it's good to see that maybe he's got that figured out. Maybe it's just I'm seeing the right plays at the right time. I don't know. But that looked pretty good. So the kids are all. You figure the first 3 batters most of the time, unless they're given a day off, or like Logan O'Hoppe recently had a sore knee, and so they sat him down. And he's been in a slump anyway. But Logan O'Hoppe, as we talked about last week, moved himself up into the 3rd spot. Zach Neto is batting 2nd. Shanuel's been leading off for quite a while, but they've all are learning how to be in those spots. They've earned those spots based on how they've been playing, how they've been hitting. So they're figuring out how to do that, and they're figuring out how to do this without having any veteran leadership, really. I mean, Brandon Drury's there, Kevin Pillar, Willie Calhoun. These are guys who have been around, but these aren't guys who are Hall of Famers potentially, like Mike Trout. Even Anthony Rendon, he's there, but I don't really feel that he's. They say he interacts well with his teammates, but I don't know. You don't really see that, not in a way that you feel like Mike Trout does. But not having Mike Trout around and knowing he's not going to be around, these guys have to figure out how to do this without having like a ringer, somebody that you can count on to carry the team. And Mike and Rendon haven't really been carrying the team. I mean, Trout was doing pretty well over his 29 games, so who knows where he'd be right now if he had not been injured. And who knows how it would have been if he'd actually, because he'd have been back by now, what he would have been doing. But I think it's better for this team to learn how to play without him and, overcome the obstacles, learn how to score runs. Now, here's the interesting thing. When you look back since the All-Star break, right before the All-Star break, the Angels beat the Mariners. They had problems with Oakland. They swept the Mariners. These are after the All-Star break. Swept the Mariners. They got beat by Colorado, but they beat the Mets. They win the series with the Yankees, but they lose the series with the Nationals. Do you see the trend? They're able to get up and play the good teams. Teams over 500, they've been beating. Teams that are in the playoff hunt, they're beating those teams. They're not beating the sub 500 teams. They couldn't beat Oakland. I think one game. Out of 13 games, if I go and look, they didn't win very many versus Oakland. They had a really rough time with the A's. Out of the 13 games they played, they were 5-8. So they won 5 games, but they lost 8 of them. And and they played all of their games like in a little over a month span versus the A's. So the A's rang their bell pretty well. But when you, like I said, when you look at the teams that are with losing records, are the ones that are beating them, and the teams with winning records, they've been able to beat a lot of these teams, and especially right now, after, like I said, after the All-Star break, that's really been the case. So we got to watch for the rest of the year. There's about 13 more series left in the season. 6 of those are against teams that, as of now, are above 500, and then there's 7 of them that are under 500. So will this trend continue? And Ron Washington says this is part of the growing, the learning experience. It's easy to get up for the better teams. It's like we've talked about that, when you go play the Yankees, you get up to play the Yankees. There's something about the Yankees. The Dodgers are another team like that. I think everybody gets up and is on their A game, or tries to be on their A game, versus the Asterix, just because they're the bad guys of baseball. Even though we're 7 years from when all that happened, it's still something that people are still talking about the Black Sox of 1919 and that scandal. So when it comes to baseball, people never forget. Will this be something that we see going forward? And here's this coming week that we're in right now, we're going to see if maybe that is the case, because the Blue Jays come to town, and Toronto, last time I looked, is the only team in the AL East below 500. So how will they play the Blue Jays? Of course, they got to deal with Vladdy Jr., who is on a hot streak, and then they welcome in the Braves. And the Braves, of course, are a wild card team right now, because the Phillies are just tearing it up, and the Braves have been dealing with injury problems. But they're still in the playoff hunt. So how will they play versus Toronto, and then how will they fare versus the Braves? So that's going to be good. Next week when we talk about that, we'll take a look at that and see if this theory holds true, that the Angels are playing down to, they're not playing up across the board. You got to play tough every single time, and Ron Washington thinks they just need to learn this, that even the bad teams, you got to play like they're the best team. Like, if you lose to this team, your season's over. I think I've been having feverish dreams lately, because I've had where the Angels started this comeback. By the end of September, they had tied the Asterix and passed Seattle to take on, to win the West, or at least force a playoff game. So I know I must be, I don't know what I'm eating or drinking right before I go to bed, but these are crazy dreams. Player of the week this week, got to go with Zeto. Zach Neto with 3 doubles, 10 RBIs, 3 home runs, 370, 452, 815 slash line, and a 1266 OPS. Dude was on fire, and hopefully he can keep that up. I've liked him since he came up. The Angels last season played so much better when he was around, and he's definitely coming around. He gets he hones in that defense and those throws across the field. He's working his way up to be an all-star.
It's time for Dodger baseball.
Heading to 1000 Vince Scully Way, Dodger Stadium, where the Dodgers decided to pick a fight with the state of Pennsylvania, taking on the Phillies to start the week and wrapping things up with the Pirates. Playing the Phillies, that was a tough one, because the Phillies have been pretty much the best team in baseball most of the season. They've had a few ups and downs, but for the most part, they've had the best record kind of at least a couple of games ahead of the Dodgers for most of the season here. So the Phillies come in. Dodgers have already played them once in Philadelphia. Now they're finishing up their season series with them, and they'll drop the series with them 1-2. Now, the one thing that once again we have to point out is when the Dodgers play pretty good starting pitching, they've got 3-4 all-stars on their pitching staff. It's gonna be they've had a hard time with great pitching. So, is that going to be the case this time? Well, in Game 1, it wasn't the case. Aaron Nola, the ace of the Phillies staff, gave up 6 runs on 8 hits, and that's the one game that the Dodgers won. They win that 5-3. Tyler Glasnow starts off the series, 6 innings, gives up 5 hits, 3 runs, strikes out 9. Shohei was 2 for 2 with a home run, 2 RBIs, and Shohei has hit the 30-30 mark, so he's pushing for 40-40, and they're even wondering if he can, like, with the bases he's been stealing, the way he's hitting home runs, does he have time? Not sure. It depends. He's going to have to get hot because he's been slumping a little bit. Does he have time to even maybe push 50-50? Which would be pretty incredible. But the 40-40 year, 40 home runs and 40 stolen bases looks within reach. So we'll see how he does. Teo was 1 for 4 with a home run, and then Anthony Banda gave up the only walk of the game. No walks on either side of the ball until Anthony Banda gave up that walk. Game 2, Kirsch was on the mound, and they dropped that one 6-2, but it wasn't on Kirsch's watch. He gave up only 1 run off of 5 hits. He only went 4 2/3 innings, but it was a good outing for him. It was the bullpen giving up 5 runs between Brusdar, Graterol, and Honeywell. And Honeywell, I'm not sure what's going on. I got to find this out. Jana might know. I'll ask her because she always seems to find those things, mostly because she looks for him and I don't. But he always wears a turtleneck. It's a short sleeve, but he's got like a turtleneck in. It's like 100 degrees outside. He's got this turtleneck and under his jersey. I'm not sure why, but it's every single time. I thought maybe it was just a one-time thing, but nope. And in that game, Brusdar Graterol, first game back, ends up, everybody thought it was like bad, like he tore a hamstring muscle there, but it not as bad as we talked about last week. He's rehabbing now. We'll see what happens. And if he makes it back by the end of the season, that will be cool. But not as bad, but still, that's the game that he dropped. Teo, again, this guy's on fire. Home run, RBI. The Phillies, though, were more on fire. Home run by Kyle Schwarber, Edmundo Sosa, and Alec Boehm with 3 hits. Something about Alec Boehm I like. I don't know why, but I just kind of am a fan of Alex. When we were at the All-Star game and we talked about going to the red carpet thing, I had like this question to ask if I got an opportunity to talk to him. And I was going to ask him, because I always notice, they're throwing the ball around, and when you throw the ball around the horn after an out, and it gets to third base, but the pitcher's already got a new ball, and you turn to throw to the pitcher, and he's like, "Nah, I already got one." And at the end of it, is that like kind of anticlimactic to throwing it around the horn, and then you just kind of toss it in? The pitcher should take the ball, and then he throws it in and gets a new ball. So that way you finish around the horn cycle. I don't know. I always thought that was one of the cool parts because I played third base during my Little League days. And, the ball would come to me and I would just toss it back or run it up and toss it to the pitcher, say something, to him. Wow. All right. Well, that's just me anyway. Game 3, complete disaster. Kyle Schwarber, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, goes 4 for 4. Nick Castellanos, who had a few big hits during the series, including a triple. He was 2 for 2 in that game, 2 runs. They lose this one 9-4 without Freddie's 3 RBIs, going 2 for 4, and Teo at 1 for 5. They may have gotten blanked if those guys hadn't stepped up. Gavin Stone, not looking as sharp as he did in the first half, but as I've always said, that happens with rookies. They're not used to pitching this much, and in the first half they're strong and they're fresh, and the second half they're kind of worn down. Plus, it's the dog days, right? 4 2/3. Gave up 3 runs on 6 hits, only struck out 2. And like I said, they would drop that. It was also Vesia, Kelly, and Michael Grove. Joe and Alex Vesia, Michael Grove all gave up runs. Only Michael Kopech gave up no runs in that game in his inning of relief. And he has been on it. And that's something that you always heard about him, and we talked about before. As long as he's maintaining his control, he is a pretty unhittable guy. Once he loses some of that, he can look pretty bad. I've seen that happen before. But right now, I think he's happy to be with a winner. Coming from the Sox, sure, he wasn't having too good of a time there. Anyway, Pittsburgh, the Buccos come to town for 3 over the weekend. Flaherty making his second Dodger start, goes 5 2/3, gives up 4 runs on 9 hits, but struck out 10. One of the Pirates' better pitchers, Mitch Keller, not a great game, gives up 7 runs, only goes 4 innings. But where the Dodgers pitched like 5 guys, the Pirates only pitched 2. Keller and Domingo Germán both threw 4 innings each to finish out the game for them. So they were saving their bullpen. No reason to get everybody worked up there if you don't need to, especially in a loss. O'Neal Cruz, a guy I wonder if the Dodgers could have traded for him. What would the Pirates have wanted for him? If we're going to get a shortstop, I mean, Miguel Rojas is great. We'll talk a little bit about what's going to happen going forward with shortstop and some things that are going to go on with the Dodgers coming up. But I think he would have been a great pickup. He had a home run and was 3 for 5 there. He's a great shortstop. I would really like to have seen him as a Dodger. Shohei with a home run, Freddie with a home run, Kike with a home run, Will Smith with a couple of RBIs, and then we go to Game 2. This one, the big point of all this was that offensively, it was a 4-1 game. Teo with a home run went 3 for 4. Gavin Lux 2 for 4 and 3 RBIs in that game. But big news was River Ryan, the rookie pitcher, goes 4 2/3, no runs, gives up 4 hits, strikes out 4, pitching against Paul Scanes. But he left that game, River Ryan did, leaves that game with a tight forearm. And then we found out later on, of course, tight forearms usually lead to one thing, and that is Tommy John surgery. And River Ryan will be having that surgery, or may have already this week. But he's out. You figure, really, they say, oh, it's a year. But you talk to guys who have had Tommy John surgery, and they'll tell you, yes, you might be ready to start throwing a little more intensity, but you're probably going to be about a year and a half before. So probably best for him, if he's having it now, that puts him in position, let's say, for next August to maybe come off. I think at that point, unless the Dodgers have no other choice, I say let him be and just bring him back 2026, spring training, and let him start there. Let him have that extra time to get there, work on some things, a little more rehab, and see. You just can't. I don't think Tommy John. You can rush it back. There's some guys who can do it. We'll see how Shohei is actually fairly far along with his rehab, but he's not going to come back until next year. And he had surgery at the end of the season last year. Ended up shutting down sometime in the early September last year. So, will he be able? I think Shohei, because of his focus, has an opportunity to come back earlier. But why? Don't push it. Continue to hit. Focus on the hitting. The Dodgers are going to need his bat in October more than they're going to need his pitching that may not be right on. And I say that knowing that the Dodgers always need pitching, especially now that they've just lost another starter. And, what are you going to do? Let's head to the Dodgers Spotlight game, the final of the series with the Pirates. It's a Jennings game. And walking it off in the 10th, this game they had 7 extra base hits. Shohei with a triple, Pages with 2 doubles, and then Kike was 3 for 5 with a double. Teo had 3 RBIs. He also had a double, and Will Smith, along with Freddie Freeman, had doubles for those 7 extra base hits. Joe Kelly had a great inning, struck out 2. Banda, it's kind of interesting if you're watching the Dodgers. I saw Banda out there with his glasses on, and I realized Banda and River Ryan look a lot alike, except that Banda wears glasses. And I was like, why is he out there? I thought he was injured. No, it's Banda. Banda gave up a couple of runs. That didn't help. He gave up 2 on 3 hits. Great home run. I got to say this. I always like Andrew McCutchen from the Pirates. He just drove one out into left field, and it was pretty. And you like to see if your team can win, but then you can see something cool. Like I was talking about seeing Barry Bonds hit a home run in Game 2 of the World Series. I didn't care about that. I was able to enjoy the majestic qualities of his home run because the Angels go on to win that game, and they were up at that point. They weren't gonna. I guess they could have lost it, but it didn't seem like it. They, like I said, sweep the Pirates, a team they should have swept. Tougher with the Phillies. Now we're getting into an interesting situation because we're on the verge of a lot of guys coming back. We've already seen in this week Mookie activated, and all of the stuff that was talked about was that he's going back to shortstop. And, of course, everybody said why. And then after some conversation, it came out he's going back to right field, which Mookie apparently had to tell Dave Roberts and the team, hey, it doesn't make any sense for me to go to shortstop. Shortstop's not a problem right now. Miguel Rojas, you've got Nick Ahmed been playing there. They had Ahmed Rosario playing there. They have a lot of options there. Right field, Jason Hayward hasn't been a great hitter. He's hitting around the Mendoza line, and he's not having a not like the year he had last year. So putting him there, putting Mookie back in right field where he's a Gold Glover, won an MVP out there, and then letting Miguel Rojas play most of the games, get most of the reps at short is a better idea. It took Mookie to get that through their heads. In that, Ahmed Rosario is DFA'd. And a lot of people had an issue with that too, because Rosario had been hitting pretty well, what little he's played, and he didn't get to play but a couple of games. And then they DFA'd him to make room for Mookie. So either somebody can claim him, and no trades or anything now, somebody can claim him, or he can take an assignment and go to like Oklahoma City or Tulsa, whatever they send him. And at first, I was with everybody else. Why would you keep Nick Ahmed, who really isn't hitting that well? He's had a couple of hits, but nothing. He's been good. He's a better defensive shortstop, but not that much better. And then I kind of realized why. Number one, Rosario's only 28 years old, so he's still got an opportunity to do a lot more. Nick Ahmed, I think they held on to him, and because they have the Dodgers do things for players that you don't always feel like other owners would do. Take Andrew Tolles, who played outfield, and we thought he was going to be great. Andrew Tolles has some mental issues, or has mental issues. We're not sure what is fully. They continue to sign him, or to continue to keep him under contract so he can continue to have health care coverage. Whether he uses it or not, they do that. And he's not on any active roster. He doesn't count against them, but they do that just for that. And I think maybe they kept Nick Ahmed because had they DFA'd him at the time, he may not have reached his 10-year mark this year. And now with that 10 years, we talked about that being an important thing when we talked about Kevin Pillar making his 10-year mark. So far this year, Paxton, Mookie, Kike, Blake Trinan, Miguel Rojas all hit 10 years of service time. So that gives you medical, and it gives you not only that, but it gives you retirement. So for the baseball players, it gives them their pension, and also once you hit 10 years, all of these guys will be once they're out of the game for 5 years, they will all qualify to be on the Hall of Fame ballot. Maybe that's why they kept Nick Ahmed and let Ahmad Rosario go. For most people, we're talking, hey, Ahmed would have been more to go than. So maybe that's why. I don't know. Anyway, so Mookie came up, Rosario went down. This week, also, and we'll talk about more of it next week. Walker Buehler being activated off of the IL, even after only one good start in Oklahoma City. We'll see. And then Landon Knack, who pitched this week in Milwaukee, he's back to OKC. And with that, Milwaukee gets 4 games versus the Dodgers. And once again, Mookie Betts will not be staying in the haunted hotel there in Milwaukee. He's got an Airbnb instead. I think it's the Pfister Hotel. And then the Dodgers will finish up the week in St. Louis before heading home to take on the Mariners. So this week's player of the week, I think, is an easy one. This is a guy with a 9-game hit streak going into the weekend with the Pirates. We'll see if he can carry that on this week. We'll talk about that next week, of course. But that guy's name's Teoscar Hernandez. Like I said, 9-game hit streak, batted .400 over the week with a 1364 OPS, 3 home runs, 7 extra base hits, 8 RBIs, 4 doubles. And you know what? One of my favorite things about watching him play is when he turns around after he does something good, the smile. Or when you see him supporting his teammates, the guy's just got an infectious smile. And it's always cool to see that, to see him light up. I'm still, every time I watch him play, I got to see him play in the All-Star game. I got to see him in the home run derby there at the stadium. And that's like some of the coolest things, any of those guys. Like Bobby Witt Jr., who has been absolutely insane lately. Being able to see those guys in person, I really recommend. Even if you have to drive a couple hundred miles, it's worth it. It's a take a day off from work, drive to the closest ballpark to you, and see a game. And if you can see, Kansas City come to play. I know it's late in the season, so some of the options of the teams you might get to see may be limited. But if you get to see Bobby Witt Jr. in person, if you're not that far from Kansas City, go to Kansas City. Go see that guy play. Don't sit around. I mean, you can watch him on TV, but there's nothing like being at the ballpark. And to be in the ballpark when Teo, Shohei, Bobby Witt Jr., Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber even, any of these guys are hitting home runs. Even going to San Diego to see Merrill Jackson, this kid is phenomenal. To go see him play, it's worth it. So even if you have to drive a couple hundred miles, make a weekend of it. Make a couple extra days, get a little getaway, get yourself a hotel, even if it's a cheap one. Okay, stay away from the hourly rate hotels, but get yourself something economical if that's the case, and go see a ball game. And it doesn't matter where you sit. Just go to a ball game. You don't have to sit behind home plate. You don't have to sit behind a dugout. I'm going to Dodgers game, one of the Dodgers versus the Mariners games. I'm sitting in the loge, but I wanted to go see the Dodgers play Cleveland, and I'm like in the very last row in the upper deck, right on the aisle. I mean, it's not as far away as I can get. I'm right behind home plate, pretty much, so I got a good view of everything from there, and it's worth it to go because there's a different feeling while you're there. Woohoo! I get to drive the bullpen cart this week. Normally Jana insists on driving because I get a little wild and crazy in the bullpen cart, but this week, yeah. Nobody's watching. I have no parental supervision, even though I'm the big brother. As usual, let's take a look at the MLB Players of the Week. Let's start off with the National League. With 2 home runs and a .417 batting average, Jackson Merrill of the San Diego Padres, the rookie sensation, probably going to be Rookie of the Year in the National League. In the American League, it is a tie. 2 Astros. Yordan Alvarez, .429 average with 5 home runs in 6 games. And over those same 6 games, his teammate, who he went back-to-back with in home runs, Alex Bregman, with 3 home runs in those same 6 games, batting .444. It's kind of, it's cool, obviously, for Astros fans. Alex Bregman, he'd been having a lot of issues, not hitting very well. Of course, he had some injury issues over the last couple of years, but you kind of wondered, where's he going? And he has turned it back on again, and he's part of the reason why, and they're pitching too, that the Asterix, they started off slow, but it goes to show you that just because you start off slow doesn't mean that you're out of it. That's when we talk about how early is too early. Those are things that we have to watch. It's going to take a while. And once again, the Astros have moved from, being towards the bottom of the NL West to the top, and they're the team to beat. They put it together as far as the NL West goes. You still got the Yankees and the Orioles are battling it out. So but they're in there. They're gonna be a playoff team, and it's because guys are stepping up like that. And Alex Bregman has come back from, just becoming a regular everyday player to somebody that Houston may want to keep around because he was on the trade block for a while there, or at least rumored to be. It's like, who could go get Bregman? Who needs a third baseman? You can get Bregman, but who knows if he's ever going to make it back? Well, he's showing that he might be making it back right now. So a couple things happened with the Yankees. One big deal was Aaron Judge hits his 300th home run this week versus the White Sox. And aside from losing a game to the White Sox, his 300th home run comes as the fastest player to ever reach 300 home runs in terms of at-bats and games played. So nobody else has gotten there faster. And then while he's, hitting those milestones, his teammate, Juan Soto, has his first career 3 home run game. And now we got to start, there's, of course we knew it was coming, but what kind of money will the Yankees offer Juan Soto? And if they don't offer him, where would Juan Soto go? And how much will Juan Soto break $700 million? A lot of people think he will. From most people's standpoint, Juan Soto is worth more based on how he's hitting, how he plays, because he plays every day. And while Shohei does play every day, he only hits right now. And even when he comes back, the question is having an outfielder that plays at a high level and hits like Juan Soto more valuable than having Shohei, who can hit just as well, but can also pitch, so he can provide as well. Maybe, obviously he doesn't play every single day as a position player, but which one is really, is this an apples and oranges conversation? Who's more valuable? And I guess the question will be to the Yankees, is he worth more than what Shohei's going to make? And the question, too, is, do you have to pay him $700 when Shohei contract, based on being deferred, was valued at about $460 million, I think, is what I remember. So the bottom line is does Juan Soto, if he's going to be paid more, is he being paid more by taking $500 non-deferred, or should we expect him to make $750 million over a 10-year span? That'll be question. That's the question as to how it works. I think I'm going for pay me $90 million a year for 3 years, and then I'll take my chances and going. I don't know. I just figure at some point, what are you going to, how much more money do you need? I guess, I don't know. Until I have that kind of money, I'm not going to know how much more money I need, right? Because I'm not going to know what I need when I buy that, multi-million-dollar house, or what does it take to upkeep a Rolls Royce, or one of those $500,000 cars. Honestly, I guess that's it. I don't know how much I'm going to need. So I better just keep, making 50, 60 million a year until I figure that out. So if anybody needs me to run an experiment for them, I'm more than happy to do that. It's like, how many licks does it take to get through, on a Tootsie Pop? Well, nobody really knows because it's different for everybody. So I need, I'm here. I can be your guinea pig to figure out how much money is enough money. If your team had the opportunity to break a record, would you root for them to break that record, regardless of what the record is? Well, if you're a White Sox fan, this question is really for you. Because we all, as baseball fans, we all want our teams to go 162-0. For the most part, the only place that you really look for undefeated seasons is college football. You know your team is not going to win 162 games. It's just not sustainable. And if they do, you got to wonder how that's happening. What kind of voodoo are they doing to make that happen? Well, now, White Sox fans, you have a chance to support your team onto the most losses in a season ever. And they're on a good pace. I haven't seen what their pace is yet. I mean, I know that since the All-Star break, they're like 2-22 or 1-22 or something. Yeah, 2 because they beat Oakland to break a 21-game losing streak, and then they beat the Yankees. And of course, everybody figures the Yankee season is over because the White Sox beat them. But what do you expect? Things like that are going to happen. And of course, you're going to think that the world is over. Now, in the modern era, which is like 1900 and on, the most losses in a season, 120 by the expansion 1962 Mets. And of course, the Mets would go on, not only in 62, they lost that, but they would lose, I think in like the mid 60s again. Was it like 65? They lost 112 games. So it was getting a little better. And by 69, the amazing Mets were winning a World Series. So nice turnaround for them. But the White Sox can definitely break that 120. And really, depending on how they continue to play, they could actually break the record set by the Cleveland Spiders back in 1898 and lose 134, or actually 135 games. They could tie it with 134. So, I mean, there's that option for them. The question is, will they rebound from having that many losses? And are they building their team? They've got Garrett Crochet, who's under control for a couple more years. They still have Luis Robert Jr. So how are they building with their farm and their youth? Will they be a team, let's say like the Orioles, who had some, look at what the Orioles are doing now. They actually were a surprise last year because that old term, they weren't supposed to be here yet. They got here too early. Well, no, they got there just in time, and their guys are, the young guys that they have are all stepping up. There's a lot of first rounders. I think they have like 2 second rounders. Gunnar Henderson was a second round pick. A lot of their guys were first round picks. Cedric Mullins was like a later round pick, but these guys most of them are homegrown, and they're in 2018 the Orioles had 115 losses. And that was a team that had Manny Machado, Zach Britton, Kevin Gossman, who's pitching well for the Blue Jays. These are guys who, they've gone on to other places and having their success. But that team in 2018 was just absolutely horrible. And then the Orioles in 2021, just 3 seasons ago now, had 110 losses. And look at them now. They did it right. If you want to see how to build up your team, Angels, are you listening? The Angels have a good, are moving in this direction too. I just don't think that they're one of the key things that the Orioles did, because the old ownership, the Angelos family, were already talking about how they were going to have to start selling off the pieces of this team, and then they sold the team, and that gave Baltimore a brighter future. So if the Angels, they've got some young players that are all coming up. I mean, just think about, like we talked about at the top of the order, Shanuel, Zetto, and Ohapi, right? Joe Adell has finally figured out his swing. He's playing a much more consistent right field. Even saw a game where he was in center field, which was his natural position, or what he was signed for, and was playing in the minors. But of course, he's coming up to the Angels, and Mike Trout's the center fielder, so he had to go to right field. Had a lot of issues there. He's still not fully consistent, but this is another guy that is a young player. He's older than the other three that I just mentioned, but you get those guys in there. Luis Rengifo is still in his 20s at second base. Plus, Christian Moore may very well be called up any time now. He is tearing things up in the minor leagues, and it took him a month to call up Nolan Shanuel last year after he was drafted. So so what the Angels need is they need to continue to build up all these young guys, and then a new owner who wants to commit to further developing players in the minor leagues so that they might have some of those diamonds in the rough. You never know that's going to surprise you. Mike Piazza was like the last pick of the draft, and he's a Hall of Famer. So you put some of these guys in the right situations. I mean, another team, look at what happened in Houston. In 2013, Houston had 111 losses. And 4 years later, they're in the World Series. Cheaters, but in the World Series. You know what? The Orioles, even though they lost in 2021, they weren't the only team that year to lose 110 games. The Diamondbacks, and look at where they are, because they're taking the time. They've made some good acquisitions, but they've got a lot of homegrown talent. And we're not just talking about Corbin Carroll. They've got, Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly, and then Brandon Pfaadt. Of course, Jordan Montgomery signed with them. So their pitching staff, and now that everybody's coming back off of the IL for them, things are looking good, or looking better. Same thing that we'll talk about next week with the Dodgers and what's going to be happening, because they're going to have a lot of flux as more and more guys start coming off of the IL, and they've got some scheduled for that. So we'll chat about that next week. So the question is, after 119 games, the White Sox are 28-91. Do you root for them to break the all-time loss record? They're going to be in the hundreds anyway. So why not, root them on to losses? At least they'll be in a record book. 121 gets them the number one spot. 135 gets them ahead of the Cleveland Spiders. I mean, if you're gonna be, what is it? If you can't be a role model, be a tragic reminder, which is the motto I live by. I am clearly a tragic reminder most days of the week. So, what do? I'm rooting for them to go ahead and break that record. At least, but if they break a record, then at least that's something to really mark the season. And then next year, when they win, when they only lose 80 games or 90 games, it won't seem as bad. All right, almost done today. I thank you for hanging in here with me. The Little League World Series fired up yesterday, Wednesday the 14th. It'll be going on for a couple weeks here. This coming Sunday, Yankees and Detroit are playing a game there in Williamsport for the Little League Classic. And the highlight of that is will be Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Giancarlo Stanton. Well, I don't know if I'd want Giancarlo Stanton doing it because he's so injury prone, but sliding down the hill on the cardboard. That will be fun to see the highlights of that. Games on ESPN, and there's just something always cool about and the Little League World Series is great. The team that I had got to see the most of when I was able to watch some of the games was the team out of the Southeast, Lake Mary Little League from Lake Mary, Florida. They took this, I think they beat Tennessee to get in, and they've got a couple players there. The pitcher and the catcher both look like they're much older than 12, but the pitcher was on it, and I think they're going to be tough to beat because they were blowing them out. Another team that I got to see was Sioux Falls from the Midwest region, and they looked pretty good. So out of the U.S., the regional champs, Great Lakes, Hinsdale Little League out of Illinois, South Shore Little League out of Staten Island, New York for the Metro Division, Mid-Atlantic, Council Rock Newton Little League out of Newton, PA. The Mountain Division, Henderson, Nevada's Paseo Verde Little League. New England, the Salem, New Hampshire, and Salem Little League. Out of the Northwest, in Puyallup, Washington, one of my favorite names city names to say. South Hill Little League clinched that region. The Southwest was Bourne Little League, Bourne, Texas. Last year, the champion of the Little League World Series came out of the West, and it was El Segundo. This year, back to the Little League World Series is Hawaii. This time it's the Central East Maui Little League out of Wailuku, Hawaii, that will be there. From the U.S. regional champions, the international champions, Asia Pacific, the Kushan Little League out of Taoyuan City, Chinese Taipei. Hills Little League out of Sydney, Australia, New South Wales, Australia. Surrey, British Columbia is the Canadian champ in the Wally Little League team. From the Caribbean, Aruba Center Little League, Santa Cruz, Aruba. Cuba, sending the Santa Clara Little League from Villa Clara. And then Europe, Africa, South Czech Republic Little League from Brno, Czech Republic. Coming from Tokyo, Johuku Little League. The Latin American team out of Venezuela, Cardenales Little League. Mexico, Matamoros Little League. Tamaulipas, Mexico. And Puerto Rico is sending the Radames Lopez Little League there. If you head to the website, llws.org, you can see, or I'm looking at the USA Today's website as well, and they've got the whole bracket up there, how everybody's playing. Like I said, game started yesterday, Wednesday. The championship game will be Sunday, August 25th, between the international winner and the U.S. winner. And that game will be on, it's either on ABC or ESPN. And they will, but yeah, it's going on between from yesterday until the 25th. So a week and a half worth of Little League Baseball. And some of these kids go on to be pros. So definitely worth checking out. And if you live in the Pennsylvania area, not too far from Williamsport, maybe go down and check out a game. I always forget about it till the last second. I always like going to out to the West Regional because it's in San Bernardino, which is about 70 miles, give or take, from where I'm at. And I get to play there as a kid, not during it was just during normal season. They had a couple of games that we've got to play up there at the Western Regional Park. And that was pretty cool. So anyway, so check out that. Next week we'll talk about some of the, what we've seen, some of the stuff I saw, and, who's moving forward in that, some of the results, and that as we enjoy all levels of baseball, and some of the greatest is played there in Williamsport. That's a wrap for this week's Sibling Rivalry Baseball podcast. Once again, it'll be just me driving the train next week, as Jana will be out one more week, and then we'll come back together. And at that point, we'll actually be able to talk about who won the Little League World Series once she's back. But next week, we'll update all of that. We'll talk more about the Dodgers and their injured list. Who's coming off? What's the effect on the team? What should we see? And, of course, we'll update, is there anything happening with the Angels? Are my feverish dreams coming true? We'll talk all about that next week. And of course, right around baseball. It's been great to hang out with you. Find us on Twitter, Sibling Rivalry BB without the A. On Instagram and Facebook, Sibling Rivalry BB with the A. And our website, siblingrivalrybb.com. Don't forget to check out the Fanatics link and get yourself some gear. Check and see. I'm not sure if Fanatics does it, but there might even be Little League gear there. If not, you can get that off of the Little League website, llws.org. So until next week, remember, see some live baseball if you can, and whatever you do, don't forget to swing away.
Yeah.